All right. So we're back. It's the Combatcast. It's Chevy Rooney. It's myself and Chevy. Let's tell me what we got coming up first.
All right, March 18th, UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman 3 from London. Looking forward to that. Welterweight title fight. And March 25th, UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Sandhagen. I feel like we've been talking about this fight forever. I'm very excited for it. And then we're going to mix it up. April 1st, there's no UFC, so we're going to preview PFL season opener, which will be headlined by one of my favorite fighters, Brendan Loughnane, and Marlon Moraes in his return to PFL.
Yeah, should be a good one, and we might even do something else too. So Get ready.
All right, so let's talk about this. Let's go over this news. There's very little news. Let's talk a little bit about Bellator 292. I just want to highlight a couple of the fighters on there. We won't go into depth, but Usman Nurmagomedov versus Benson Henderson for the lightweight title. So that's a great matchup. We're definitely stands for Bendo here, so we're looking for a Benson Henderson win.
Yeah.
MVP is also fighting on the card, so very exciting fighter for sure. He's fighting. What was his name? I forgot now. Yamauchi.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember his first name, but it starts with a G.
I've met this guy. Goatee.
Yeah. That's what it is. Goatee.
Yeah.
Probably going to get pieced up by MVP, to be honest, but good luck to him. So I don't know if you got any thoughts on that Bellator card.
Nah, I mean, I agree with you. MVP is probably going to piece him up. I don't know if Benson's going to be able to pull it off, but I'm always a Benson fan. So
we're rooting for him, though.
Absolutely. Always one of my favorites. His wife's competing in Bellator MMA now, too, I believe. I think she just signed a contract.
Nice.
So, first husband and wife, out there competing. So, good for them.
Well, UFC used to have these Cheyenne Buys, I think her husband used to compete. I don't know if it was also in the UFC, but he was an MMA fighter. I remember she was in his corner. But
it has happened before then.
Yeah, I believe.
So we've had brothers. I know that too.
Oh yeah, Lozon brothers. Yeah,
Miller brothers.
Larkins.
Yeah. So that was always interesting. Now, there's only one other little news and notes we want to talk about, right? That was. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dana White says that Francis Ngannou will never be in the UFC again. But what do you feel about that? You think that's true?
No, I don't think that's true. I mean, I think it's up in the air. If Francis goes out, let's say, and he has a heavyweight boxing match and gets embarrassed, or he goes over to Bellator or something and he gets embarrassed, and it'll just be more Dana go, I told you, he just doesn't want to fight anymore, blah, 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 But Francis keeps killing it and keeps building a name for himself and he becomes this big attraction, or you end up needing an attraction, then yeah, I could see them taking it. Now, I mean, I will say this about Dana. I don't think he when he says he doesn't have to do this, he doesn't. The guy's made a ton of money. So I could see there could be this, fuck him. He doesn't care, right? And that's what you're dealing with, which kind of sucks. But
that's not great for the sport.
It's not great for the sport.
That's where we're at.
But I mean, he is a fight fan, so I think that's what works for us sometimes. But I mean, at the end of the day, those petty things can happen. I don't think it will. I think if Francis, there's a wrestler, Cody Rhodes, that says this: if you become undeniable, then that's just what it is, So we could see Francis back. But I mean, it's clear. Listening to the press conference this week. like that Dana made some comment about like, just, it's clear after watching John Jones that, Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, nobody would stand a chance against this guy. Like
he's selling his product.
He's selling his product, but he also made a comment too that, Cyril Gane made one mistake in that Francis Ngannou match. He went for the ankle pick and that cost him. And if he didn't make that one stupid mistake, and it's like, no, man, that's not what happened.
No, that's not what happened.
Yeah, so it's just very clear biasness towards this man, who really, the best I can tell, didn't do anything wrong. They just couldn't come to terms business-wise. He didn't like what you had to offer, so he didn't take it. Like, what's the crime in that? You know what I mean? Like, even if you think
it's a Dana, that's
from a business standpoint, like nobody did anything bad, so there's no reason to be this upset. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, another big part of this is the sniping back and forth, like on Twitter or whatever, between John Jones and Francis. If that continues,
right,
it keeps Francis relevant and builds that fight. Dana will have no choice, he'll have to bring Francis back.
I don't think Dana would really have a big problem with it, honestly. I also kind of partly wonder if Dana knows it's a possibility and he's just selling it himself. Yeah.
Right. It's a negotiation tactic against Francis. Also, it keeps us talking about it. It keeps people talking about it. Dana's going to do whatever makes the UFC the most money. And I assume a Francis versus John fight is in the best interest of the UFC. So
right. And then you got to wonder what John's going to do. Like, John wanted Stipe next, which is a very interesting call. He clearly picked the guy with the biggest name out there still. There's some other guys. I'm not saying Stipe isn't dangerous, but there's some other guys out there that are dangerous that don't have that name value. And I don't know if John is interested in that at this point in his career. And Dana even kind of alluded to that at the press conference saying, John wants Stipe, so we got him for that. And then you never know. He's kind of like dealing with an artist. He's basically saying, who knows?
John said he had at least 2 left. So I think his goal would be Stipe and then bring Francis back, beat Francis, and then he is undeniable as the greatest MMA fighter of all time.
I'm sure.
So
but they could end up throwing something in there. You never know. A guy like Tom Aspinall returns from injury.
If Tom Aspinall comes back healthy, I think he has all the tools to give John problems for sure. I'm not saying he would definitely win that fight.
Right.
But I think at this point, he'd be the toughest matchup.
And who's the guy that was the stand-in? We were just talking about him last week.
Sergey Pavlovich.
Yeah. Another guy with this very tough power.
Matchup.
Yeah.
But he has a matchup coming up, I believe. I can't remember exactly against who, but I know he has a fight coming up, even though he was the stand-in this past weekend. But that is an interesting fight. He's got to win his current fight to see if he gets a shot.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to do it a little differently this week. We're going to talk about the fight night first, and then we'll finish with UFC 285 talk. So let's get to this card. You want to preview some prelims?
Yeah. I'll just rattle off some names to keep a lookout for. This is a good prelim for hardcores. Not a lot of big name fighters on here, but some great fighters. So Abubakar Nurmagomedov, that's Khabib's cousin. He's the first fight on the prelims, actually. Then Ariana Lipsky versus JJ Aldridge is on the prelims, and Mario Batista on the prelims, and could be fight of the night if it was on the main card. It's tough to get fight of the night on the prelims, but Rafael Assunção versus Davy Grant is an excellent matchup. So I'm looking forward to that one too. So keep an eye out on these prelims, but let's get into the main card.
All right.
Vitor Petrino versus Anton Turkalj.
All right, let me get my notes here. Petrino is a 7-0 prospect, 6 KOs, 1 decision. He's coming off a Contender Series win. And Anton, he's 8-1, 5 KOs, 2 subs, 1 decisions. And he just lost his first UFC fight. And he's also a Contender Series fighter. Interesting to note, he lost his first UFC fight. It's his only loss. And his second fight against is another undefeated prospect. Like, we definitely did not do Anton any favors here. It's a tough one when you get 2 guys like this. As I go through some of these records and stuff, and I was looking at that, remember I have, but there's quite a few people I look at and they lose their UFC debut. It happens a lot. Jitters is a real thing. Anton's back is against the wall. I think he's going to hand Vitor his first loss here. I could be wrong. I don't really like when you're too evenly matched. I don't have a ton to go off on stuff like this. I know they're both finishers. It's really hard to pick. So this is kind of just going with a gut that, hey, this guy's back against the wall. He needs his victory. There's a case where we see jitters in the debut. So I think I'm going to pick them. They are finishers. I'll say he gets a sub, We'll see.
Yeah, so obviously only 2 decisions between these guys, so I assume that we're going to get a finish, and I'm going to pick Vitor based off the absolute brutal KO he had on Dana White Contender Series. I don't know if you saw that fight, but it was, you should YouTube it. It was a brutal, brutal knockout. So
you know what? I'm changing my pick. Vitor. I'm going with Vitor because he's undefeated too. And as I was doing this, I was making this great case in my head, but I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with round 1 KO for Vitor. So
I'll stick with round 2, so it's not quite the same. But all right,
let's move on to the next fight: Said Nurmagomedov versus Jonathan Martinez. I'm very excited for this one.
Nurmagomedov 17-2, 4 KOs, 5 subs, 8 decisions. He's 6-1 in the UFC, and he's on a 4-fight win streak. Martinez is 17-4, 8 KOs, 2 subs, 7 decision. Also on a 4-fight win streak, and he's 8-3 in the UFC. So both guys are hot right now. Both looking to continue that momentum. When in doubt, go with a man whose last name is Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov will get this done. He can get it done a lot of ways. Submission, decision, whatever. I'll say this fight goes this distance, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the betting lines look like, but I assume Said is the favorite. But I'm going to pick Martinez, though. I think that he can snipe Nurmagomedov from range, and then if he hurts him, he can finish him. He's an excellent boxer for sure. So, but this all hinges on his ability to get up from the takedowns that are inevitably going to happen with that Nurmagomedov name. Although Said is more of a striker than, Khabib, he still has that Dagestani wrestling. So I think I'm going to say Martinez is able to get up and he lands enough shots at range to hurt Said, and he'll finish him TKO round 2. It's definitely against the grain, but that's what I'm feeling.
Okay. And then what we got here next here?
All right. Ricardo Ramos versus Austin Lingo.
Austin Lingo, 9-1, 3 KOs, 2 subs, 4 decisions. He's on a 2-fight win streak. He lost his UFC debut. So that's his only loss. Again, another case where someone lost their debut, and then he came back and got the win. Ricardo Ramos, he's 16-4, 4 KOs, 7 subs, 5 decisions, and he's 7-3 in the UFC. So this guy's got more UFC experience for sure too, and he's been around. But I like Lingo. I think when you look at his record, 3 KOs, 2 subs, 4 decisions, he's well-rounded. That one loss, like I said, was the UFC jitters. I'll say he get it done. I'm going to say it's another decision, though.
Yeah, like you were saying, Ramos has been up and down lately, but I just don't know enough about Austin to pick him. So I'm going to go with Ramos just based on his strength of schedule and his success in the UFC. So I think he gets a decision win, though. All right, move on to a fight that was rescheduled due to a tummy ache or something. Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann.
All right, we don't need to go in depth. We've already actually previewed this fight, but Krylov is 29-9, 12 KOs, 15 subs, 2 decisions. This man does not like to go to distance. Ryan Spann, 21-7, 6 KOs, 12 subs, 3 decisions. He doesn't go to distance very often. He's coming off a brutal knockout over Dominic Reyes there. I think he's got some momentum going. You look at his record, he's got quite a bit of subs, actually a lot more subs than his KOs. I think he's going to get it done. I said this in the past early, and I think he has to get it done early because I think the later it goes, I think Krylov will figure out a way to beat him and get the decision. So I'll say Ryan Spann gets it done in round 1.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Spann to get the KO, and he definitely can, but I think it's more likely that Krylov gets a decision, and probably a boring fight. I think he'll know where Ryan is super dangerous and uses wrestling to avoid, eating those big shots and, getting his neck snatched up. So I think Krylov by decision. Let's move on to heavyweight fight. Alexander Volkov versus Alexander Romanov.
Romanov, 16-1, 6 KOs, 9 subs, 1 decision. He's 5-1 in the UFC, and he's coming off his first loss. I don't have it in front of me. I think it was Tabera. It was like a majority
Tabera.
Yeah, it was a majority decision loss. So Volkov, 35-10, 23 KOs, 3 subs, 8 decisions. He's a former Bellator champ. Ton of experience. He's fought the best. You're not really going to do a lot to, show him anything different. I think Romanov wants to come back and get a victory. I think Volkov is on the decline in his career. He's getting a little older. Would not shock me if he still pulls this off. I'm not saying he's an underdog. He might even be the favorite for this. I don't know. But I'm going to go with Romanov, who's had less damage done at this point in his career. Looking at that record, I'll say boring heavyweight decision.
Yeah. I think Volkov is just too crafty to get subbed by Romanov, and I think that's his path to victory as a submission over Volkov. But I see Volkov keeping the fight at distance and picking away at Romanov. And then if Romanov gets stunned and his back gets pressed up against the cage, Volkov will pour on the pressure and the volume and get a TKO finish. So I think he gets a TKO finish in round 3.
All
right. Main event time. Bantamweight matchup we've been looking forward to for a while. Super tough to call. Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili.
All right. Merab is 16-4, 3 KOs, 1 sub. He's got an 8-fight win streak. He's coming off a big win over his career, his biggest win ever over Jose Aldo. He holds a victory over the current bantamweight Bellator champ, Rafion Stotts, and that was a spinning back fist, which was very uncharacteristic of Merab. Got him in the UFC, though. And then Yan, 16-4, 7 KOs, 1 sub, 8 decision. He's a former bantamweight champion in the UFC. And I mean, other than he comes off a loss over Sean O'Malley, a fight he arguably won. I think most people felt he won, but a close fight. Then he lost a rematch to Sterling in a fight that I would say Sterling won, but a close fight. And then other than that, he had a loss by DQ to Sterling, where he's the only champ I can think of that lost his title through a DQ. And he has an early loss in his career to Magomed, one of the Bellator bantamweights, top bantamweight. So this guy's only lost to the best, and it's only been close fights to the best of my knowledge. So Yan is one of the best. Honestly, this fight could go a bunch of different ways, I think, because we could have a situation where the wrestling cancels each other out, and we end up getting a good striking, a la Covington Usman style here. That being said, I think Merab is more of the aggressive wrestler. I think Yan is the better striker, but Jan's pretty good with takedown defense. And that's going to be really telling in the opening part of this fight. Is Merab going to get him down? Merab's not going to give up that takedown. That's for sure. He's going to keep coming. And Yan likes to keep coming forward, too. So that makes an interesting fight because they both have great cardio. I don't think anybody can out-cardio Merab, though. If I'm talking a lot, it's because I'm trying to figure out who I really want to pick for this. It's a super close fight. My heart wants Merab because he's the absolute nicest guy, and I want to keep seeing him do well. I think Jan's punching power could be the difference here. I'm going to lean towards Yan. I'm going to say he gets it done round 3, TKO, maybe 4, but it's going to be later, and it's going to be the pressure, and it's going to be that he's able to stop the takedowns. And when he's keeping it standing, I think that striking is going to be the difference maker here. But not going to be shocked if Merab gets this done, either with his wrestling or maybe because we don't see it often, his striking is improved and he ends up pulling it off. Because Merab is such a good wrestler and he constantly does it, and he's not a guy that's going to really break away from the game plan. He could have improved striking that we just don't even really know about. So it'll be interesting to see. I know he always works on all aspects of his game.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's super, super tough to call. I'm definitely a bigger fan of Merab. I like Yan, but I'm a bigger fan of Merab. But I think Yan has been very unlucky in these close fights, like you said, and he really needs this win, and that's going to drive him to a new level. I assume that Yan is a small favorite going into the fight, and I think I agree with that. I would give him a slight edge. Merab's been improving his striking, like you said, but Yan has some of the best boxing in the division for sure, and he has strong takedown defense, like you were saying. I think he uses those, and he gets a close decision win. He's just on the correct end of another close decision.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Looking forward to it. This is a little bit of a sleeper of a card, but it's on a little bit earlier, 6 p.m. start time, main event. A lot of good fights on here. So
yeah.
All right, let's talk about 285, last week's card.
Sure. I'm going to throw a fight out for you because I actually didn't get to see this fight. I was wondering if you did. Ian Gary got the win over Song Keenan, TKO punches. I saw Song's face after this. It was lit up. Did you see this fight?
I didn't. It's on UFC Fight Pass, which I don't have.
Oh, okay. I heard Song got him early too. That's why I was.
He knocked him down, I think.
Yeah.
And Gary came back. I heard that the finishing sequence was a great combination from Ian Gary, who, I mean, I'm a huge fan of that guy. I don't know why they stuck him on the early prelims. I think it's a shame that they did that. He could be a star in the future for sure if they bring him up properly. So I don't know why you bury him way down there, but I bet his next one won't be on the early prelims.
No, getting finishes like that.
All right, let's talk about. We're not going to go over all the prelims and all that. Right. Let's just go over a few. Let's talk about this Derek Brunson versus Dricus du Plessis.
What a weird fight in some ways. Brunson comes out wrestling like we thought he could. Looks like he's going to play spoiler, and then at the end of round one, I would say is when I first noticed it. He got caught, I think, once or twice, but he still looked like we thought he was going to come out and dominate round two. But Brunson kind of started abandoning his striking, almost like he expected du Plessis to already be tired, and which he was. But du Plessis, to his credit, he fights very well tired. Like this guy,
that might just be his default, is that really heavy breathing, you know?
Yeah. I think maybe that's part of it, and I also think his guy is. Like when the chips are down, like that's not going to affect him. Like, you know, he's just used to fighting like that. So another impressive win for du Plessis, TKO stoppage, round two. And the end of that, hats off to Brunson's corner for throwing out the towel. Brunson.
I mean, the round was over a little bit late on it for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it should have been.
Yes, definitely. Good idea to call it. Whether they waited until the bell rang and didn't let him go back out for the third round or whatever, I mean, probably time for Brunson to hang him up.
Yeah,
I think this is the second time that they've had to stop the fight also. So
yeah, he's may have had enough fights. He had a good winning streak there, but then his last couple of fights have looked bad, and he's talked about retirement before. So maybe it's just time.
Right? Yeah, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Try to make a last run or whatever. You know, ran into the wrong guy. He had great moments in the fight for sure. That striking he does where he blitzes forward with his chin up. It's just asking to get knocked out. But he lands a lot of shots in those moments. So I don't know what's next for du Plessis. He was demanding a title shot or something. You're not coming off the prelims and getting a title shot, but
no.
And he is impressive. I would like to see him work on that cardio. I know that he's done well, even when he's been tired, but I mean, I don't know if you can be a dominant champion when you're breathing that heavy in the second round. So hopefully he can figure that out. All right, move on to another fight we're very excited for, and I'm super happy with the outcome. Cody Garbrandt versus Trevin Jones.
Yeah, and Cody was talking about he was injured going in this fight. Got injured in one of his final. Now, assuming you never know with fighters, but Assuming that's accurate, it also explains why he fought with a little bit of caution at times. But I mean, also good on him. You should be fighting with a little caution with some of those. Save that chin as best you can. Avoid those knockouts, and then maybe we have seen it at some points in his career. Your chin doesn't usually come back, but sometimes there are fighters. Andre Arlovski is a great example of that.
Alistair Overeem,
right, where they learn how to fight defensively, and they don't always get taken out right away. So, good for Cody to get the victory over, I thought, a very game Trevin Jones. I thought like he wanted it, but he just couldn't get past those couple takedowns. And
he didn't throw enough.
Yeah.
Too. He only landed like 7 strikes in the first 2 rounds or whatever. So
yeah,
Cody kept him on his heels.
Yeah. I think the speed of Cody was a little bit, but again, maybe he was like Trevin might have been in his head a little bit too, because when the corner really got on him, Trevin did really seem to turn it up in round 3.
Mm-hmm.
But by that point, he had already lost the first 2 rounds.
Yeah. I didn't see if he got cut today, and he was in danger of being cut for sure. Like you said, those first 2 rounds, not a dominant performance, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut this week. So hopefully he lands in like Bellator or something, get his mind right, and I bet he does well over there for sure.
Yeah, I think he guys got potential for sure.
Yeah, I'm super tough division, like we were talking about, but
right.
I think he can do well if his confidence is there. All right, let's move into this main card. First fight on the main card, Bo Nickel versus Jamie Pickett.
Yeah, Bo Nickel, impressive. Again, was there a low blow? I guess that would be the question. Jamie Pickett certainly thinks so, and they're lodging a complaint. I don't know if there's going to be anywhere with that. I would maybe the UFC will be nice enough and just say, all right, here, let's just give you another fight. It was interesting. It's kind of hard to tell about Pickett, because he got taken down so early and out so early, and he was kind of being led as the sacrificial lamb. But the way he came out, and an aggressive way he came out, just in those few seconds, I didn't think this guy was here to lose. I thought he was going to go out there, and he was definitely ready to win. I don't think he was nervous by the hype or anything, but it didn't matter. At the end of the day, Bo Nickel took him down.
I don't think he knew who Bo Nickel was. I think is part of the reason why he was so confident. He didn't know what he was getting into.
Well, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Sometimes, at the end of the day, though, Bo Nickel, impressive victory. There's times like this, I'll usually with the main card, I'll throw opponents out there. But with a guy like Bo Nickel, let's just bring him up slow. Let's give him another opponent like this, and let's see where we're at. I was looking at top 15, and a fun one at some point, maybe in the next couple of fights if he continues to dominate, might be Chris Curtis, who's sitting there at number 14, because Chris is salty, but Chris is a hell of a fighter too, and he's been through it all. I'm not saying
tough test,
yet, but
yeah, that's a tough test. I don't think that's what they'll do first, give him a super crafty vet, but as far as the fight, Pickett can complain about the low blow, but I mean, he never had a chance based on his submission defense that I was seeing. I'm no grappling expert, but the grappling in this wasn't super impressive to what I expect from Bo Nickel. I like I said, I'm not a grappler, but even I knew that he should have sliced his knee through that guard and moved to side control to really lock down that head and arm choke. He would have had Jamie Pickett out of there a minute earlier. So, he's got things to learn. I think it might be that wrestling base he has where you never want to give up mount. You want to keep that dominant position, but he could have finished that fight much earlier if he had slid off to the side. I don't think we really got to see that much from him. I want to see more from him. I want to see what his striking looks like for sure. He threw that kick and fell down, and that was like basically all the striking we got to see from him. We know his wrestling is phenomenal. So I want to see what his striking looks like before we're throwing him to any really dangerous guys. But I am excited for what he does next for sure. And I hope Jamie Pickett gets another chance, because I guarantee there are a bunch of guys that got asked to fight Bo Nickel, and they all said no. And Jamie Pickett was like, sure, I'll fight him. So I think that right there should give him at least one more in the UFC.
I hope so.
All right, let's move on to Mateus Gamrot versus Jalen Turner. This was a great fight.
Great fight. Gamrot gets it done. I was very impressed with Turner, though. I thought Turner made a great accounting for himself. I was trying to think of opponents for Gamrot next afterwards. I mean, obviously, I'm going to let you talk a little more about the fight, but so I got one for you. This is kind of out there, but Gamrot is in the top 10 or in the top 15. I have to go back and look, but I thought, you know what? He's been so impressive. How about a guy who hasn't fought in a while? What about Justin Gaethje? You know, he hasn't fought.
Gaethje's fighting Fiziev like
He's got the
next
fight
week or soon or something. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? Maybe the loser of that. Maybe not the winner of that, because I don't think Gamrot should be. But maybe the winner, depending on what we're doing with the top. But I think there's a few people, because you're looking at Poirier maybe next for the title. Obviously, Conor and Chandler got this Ultimate Fighter thing going on. Volk has been talked about. If he wins successfully at featherweight, he could get a rematch. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, super stacked division. There's a lot of options they could do for sure. Excuse me. As far as the fight goes, I could have seen this fight going either way. I know some people are saying that they think that Jalen Turner should have got the win. He did knock Gamrot down twice in the fight, but the takedowns and the wrestling got Gamrot the decision win for sure, and I'm okay with that based on the rules of MMA and the way it's judged. So tough to judge. I was fine with either guy winning for sure. I don't think this slows down Jalen Turner too much. I know he had 5 straight wins and a lot of first round finishes in those 5 straight wins. He is just a freak for the division. He's like 6'3", and he uses his range so well, and he's fast and powerful with his striking. His ability to get up from takedowns against someone like Gamrot was good. So I don't think this is going to slow him down too much, just a little bump in the road. I'm not sure what's next for Gamrot, but I am excited. I know he's working his way towards something. I don't know if it'll be a title shot anytime soon with how jammed up the division is, but there's a lot of good options for him.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'll just pull up here the lightweight rankings. Gamrot is ranked number 7 right now. Fiziev, Chandler, Darius, Gaethje, Poirier, and Oliveira. All those guys are either booked for fights or on the Ultimate Fighter. So, I don't know.
He's going to have to fight someone below him.
He might have to. Or, again, maybe with Gaethje and Fiziev coming up next soon, maybe he could get the winner or loser of that fight. Either way, would be a good fight.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would assume if Fiziev wins, he's earned a title shot at this point.
Yeah, I would think so.
But, we'll see. Like I said, jammed up division. Fiziev, not the biggest name, even though he's one of the most exciting fighters, but we'll see. So move on to what might have been fight of the night. I'm not sure what actually got the award, but this one might have been my fight of the night. Yeah, Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Yeah, Romanov. Actually, it got fight of the night, and Neal, who missed weight, which was uncharacteristic. Dana White was so impressed with Neal's performance that he gave him his bonus money, which is not usual. But Dana said that kid fought his ass off, and he said he made Rakhmonov a better fighter with that performance.
And also, like I was saying about Jamie Pickett, another fighter that nobody wants to accept a fight against, Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Yeah.
Jeff Neal said, sure, give him to me. I'll fight him, which he has with everyone. He's fought the toughest guys. We talked about it last week. He has maybe the best strength of schedule in the UFC.
Absolutely.
So I'm very glad that Dana decided to do that. Good on Dana.
Yeah, no doubt. Rakhmonov was they were both very impressive. And this could be an interesting fight down the road again at some point. But Neal went out on his shield. He pushed Rakhmonov to the test, and I'll let you go a little more into it. I'll throw a name out there that actually was discussed at the press conference. One of the reporters asked that Rakhmonov versus Kobe Covington as a possible fight. Kobe apparently is back from injury and is ready to fight. And Dana said we have offered a few fights. It just they happen to fall through. It's not even that Cody's turning them down; they just fall through. So, and we know Kobe, like he wants big names, but Kobe will. Fight eventually. And we know this guy behind all the persona can go. I think that's a very fun fight.
Yeah, I don't see Colby accepting that fight. It's super dangerous for him. I would like to see him fight Masvidal.
Oh,
Either guy, actually. Colby fight Masvidal or Shavkat fight Masvidal. Or like Shavkat versus Wonderboy would be a good
that would be
matchup
a great
too.
fight too. Yeah.
Bilal Muhammad. I don't think Bilal should be fighting down anymore. He needs to wait for a title shot, but that is a matchup eventually I'd like to see. I think that's a good matchup. But as far as the Jeff, go ahead.
Dana seemed very intrigued by the Covington fight in the press conference. And one thing about Dana, he's never really gave Kobe too much preferential treatment. Like he's, like the shtick a little bit, I think, but at times he's like, kid doesn't want to fight. F him. Kobe doesn't get that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would be down for that fight for sure. I think that's a tough fight for Rachmanov. The pressure. Colby has a pretty good chin. So, I mean,
at least he has. It's been tested a few times.
It's been tested. Yeah. So, we'll see. As far as the fight with Jeff Neal, I mean, Jeff Neal's a savage. Like I was saying, I did not give him much of a chance to get out of the first round. I said he was getting finished. So he took all the shots from Shavkat and was giving them right back, trading with them. Unfortunately, he just got a little bit tired and he got caught. But it was a great fight. That's the first time that we've seen Shavkat breathing heavy in a fight. So, Neal took him to the edge for sure. And, we see that Shavkat also has a good chin because Neal landed a lot of very heavy shots on him as well. So, I don't know what's next for Neal, but I hope he gets a favorable matchup after this one for sure because he definitely did the UFC a favor, even though he missed weight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at welterweights here. Rachmanov is like number 6 right now, behind Burns, Muhammad, Chimaev, Covington.
Rachmanov versus Luque is also an interesting matchup. I would be down for that one for sure too.
Yeah, I'd be up for Jeff Neal, Stephen Thompson, like a rematch too. That could always be fun. I know Neal lost the past, but that might be different. Hill versus Masvidal would be fun. I don't know if Masvidal would do that fight. But
no, he wouldn't.
No,
too dangerous. Not a money fight. So,
and I think Neal's the kind of guy that will fight people behind him. So I'm looking behind him too. You got guys like Michael Chiesa, Michel Pereira. So
Michel Pereira is a good matchup versus.
Yeah,
I like that one. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
All right, let's move on to the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso. This is a fight we all knew exactly what was going to happen, right?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I didn't know I wanted Grasso to win until she won. I was so happy for this girl. She looked great too. She looked outstanding. It wasn't like Valentina came in here. Like we said, even though we picked Valentina, we said she was coming off her toughest fight, and we were wondering, if this might be starting to be the decline. But we weren't thinking that was the case. And I still don't think they're like, she came out looking good. But at the end of the day, Grasso just looked a step ahead. She is undefeated at this weight class. And it is amazing with some fighters how well they perform at certain weight classes. Now, that being said, I will throw this out there. I do think Valentina, maybe, I don't know what her weight cuts are like, but maybe it will be time to go to bantamweight at some point in her career. Maybe that's part of the issue she's having. I don't know. Because she's been so dominant and there's a ton of film out there on her. So you never know.
She's also had so many fights when you think about all of her Muay Thai and kickboxing fights, She's not super old. I mean, she's not super young, but just in fight years, she has so many miles on her too, which could be affecting her at this point.
And I'll let you talk about the fight, but as far as I'm concerned for future, I think these two have to rematch. If not, then Aaron Blanchfield is the only other logical choice. But I think Valentina has to get a rematch unless she doesn't want it or there's a reason this doesn't happen. And with Grasso and now Brendan Moreno, both champs, I got to think we're going to get a card in Mexico at some point here too.
And Yair is an interim champ.
That's right. Yair's interim champ.
So, if they put all three of them on a I don't think they would put 3 title fights on a card.
They've done it before.
But not. I mean, those aren't the biggest names.
No, but it would be fun. Like I know, like somebody even talked about like a Cinco de Mayo card, but usually that's where Canelo always boxes.
And
tough
to go up against
Canelo,
that.
so he won't do it. But man, like a nice little weekend type thing. You imagine that Cinco de Mayo, like in Mexico, you did like all 3 of those people like on the main card. Like, man, like I think it's fun little stuff like that the UFC should try to do more of sometimes.
Right, good way to expand into a different market for sure.
Which Dana is big on the Mexican market. Like he wants to put a PI down there, and that's one of the things he said at the press conference. And he says he's been on that for day one. I remember years ago Dana talking about that. That's something he wanted to do. So I hope he's right because there seems to be a lot of promise and talent coming out of Mexico.
Yeah. Going back to the fight, obviously, I was totally overlooking Grasso. I apologize. Even though, like you were saying, I did think that Valentina's reign was going to come to an end. I didn't think this was going to be the fight that she was going to lose her belt. But Grasso looked great, especially on the feet with her boxing, which, is where Valentina, that would be what her best weapon would be, I'm sure. She would consider striking. Valentina had good takedowns, though, but Grasso survived, and props to her for that game plan because she executed the game plan to dive for a takedown on a spinning back kick, which is how she got to Valentina's back and choked her out with a neck crank, really. She wasn't even under the chin, so very impressive. But I would assume Valentina is favored in the rematch, like you were saying. But I'm not sure that Alexa doesn't beat her again. She looks so good on the feet. And I really think that Valentina's time, at least at flyweight, might be coming to an end. She's a counter striker, really. And she's just looking just a tad bit too slow to counter some of these girls at this point. So I'm a fan of her for sure, but it doesn't matter who wins the belt because Erin Blanchfield's going to be the champion by next year anyway, and no one's taking the belt off her, I don't think.
Yeah, maybe this year if something happens and there's an injury and they do a fight.
Right.
So,
yeah. All right, let's get into this main event. John Jones versus Cyril Gane for the heavyweight belt.
It's going to be, John Jones, what do you say? Like, he just came out. And I think this was the thing we talked about is assuming the weight cut wasn't an issue. I mean, not the weight cut, but, the new weight class and all the gain weight. Assuming the layoff was an issue. Based off what we saw of Gane's wrestling, Jones would eat him up. And I don't know if the weight is an issue because Jones just ate him up within, it was crazy. So, I didn't feel like we really learned a lot about John at this weight class other than he is a horrible matchup for Cyril Gane. I'm interested to see what the Stipe fight would do. But, Stipe is aging. That's the only thing. He's been around for a while. But, like, assuming we get to Stipe of old, we got a guy who's a natural heavyweight and who can wrestle. Maybe not at the level of Jones, but he can wrestle. And he's got good striking. So it'll be interesting. I would still favor Jones in a match with Stipe. I think the wear and tear on Stipe is the issue. But I will say one thing about Stipe, and I'll let you get back to this fight, but I will say one thing. Stipe is one of those guys. He has made adjustments throughout the years. And there were times where he lost early in his career at heavyweight. He had a loss, and he bounced back from it, and he became a better, stronger fighter. You look at the Cormier series where, he made adjustments in that second fight. Like he lost the first one and he came back and he made adjustments in the middle of the second fight to win. And then in the third fight, just looked better. He makes adjustments. I think a lot of Stipe Miocic. So it'll be an interesting fight. I would favor Jones. I don't have much to say about Gane. It was just, again, just a horrible matchup at heavyweight. Just didn't have anything for John at all.
Yeah, I don't want to be too shitty, but poor showing from Cyril. He probably shouldn't even have been the champion. He didn't fight a wrestler once on his way to the belt, and the only time he fought anyone that really wrestled him was Francis, who's not a wrestler, and dominated him on one leg. So we kind of all knew it was going to happen here. But yeah, like you said, we didn't get to see enough from John to know if he's back to the John of old. He said he felt a little awkward in the stand-up, and the only thing we saw happen in the stand-up was he got kicked in the dick in the first 10 seconds. So we don't know. But I'll tell you, if we get the Stipe fight, we're going to know what John Jones looks like at heavyweight, because he's not going to get finished inside the first 2 minutes. I also agree. John Jones is the favorite. He probably beats Stipe, especially because Stipe is aging. He's also been inactive. He's a bit weathered. Skill-wise, very good matchup, but I just think he's too old at this point to really put up any fight against John Jones at heavyweight. So I assume John gets that fight in July like he was looking for. He wins it. I see Randy Osgood asking what other heavyweights are there.
Sergey Pavlovich.
Yeah, Sergey. But we talked about this a little bit beforehand. The fight I really want to see is Tom Aspinall. I want Tom Aspinall to come back from this knee injury, hopefully very healthy. And I think skills-wise, he puts up the best, the best matchup with John Jones. I don't necessarily favor him in that fight, but I think he's young, he's explosive, he's great on the feet, he has excellent jiu-jitsu. I think he poses the most problems for John Jones, but he needs to get healthy before John Jones decides he's ready to peace out.
And Curtis Blades is another one I would say too. Just that wrestling. He could be a real pain in the ass. I don't think the UFC will even book that fight, honestly.
Right. They don't respect Curtis Blades at all. He can't do anything to get a title shot. But that
Blades
is a tough
to win over
matchup.
Aspinall. It was an injury, but
right, that was early in the fight. Aspinall kicked him in the knee or in the elbow or whatever, and his ACL tore.
Yeah. If you look at Blades' career, he's only lost to 2 people. He's got
Power
3 losses.
punchers.
Francis Ngannou. Each time he got caught, and then he got caught by Derek Lewis, which I tell you, Blades probably beats Derek Lewis 9 out of 10 times. No disrespect to Derek. So.
Right. Yeah, he got caught on shooting in for a takedown, which,
John's not going to do that.
No.
I would be surprised. Again, we haven't seen that John has some kind of knockout power yet.
He might hurt him in the clinch or something like that,
right.
But yeah, we would see John's jiu-jitsu for sure, because he would get put on his back, I assume. But that would be a great matchup. I would be happy to see that, but I don't think the UFC books that because they don't respect Curtis Blades.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Tell me what we got, and then we'll get out of here.
All right. March 18th, UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman 3 from London. And then March 25th, UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Sandhagen. Finally going to get to see that bantamweight matchup. And then April 1st, we're going to be previewing PFL season opener, Brennan Loughnane versus Marlon Moraes. And, we might do a 5-3-1 or something for you guys to go along with that.
All right. We'll keep you updated. Enjoy Merab and Yan this weekend.